Hey guys, welcome to the weekly question video where we answer your questions. If you would like to submit a question to be featured on one of these videos, the best way to do that is in the comments, or you can email us. Information on how to do all that is down below, as well as the link to our Patreon if you want to support what we're doing here.
Awesome.
Today's question is one that we have answered before technically, but it's been a while, so we're going to talk
Yeah,
about
it's
it.
good to answer it again. Good to give an update, right?
I will link the long form podcast that we went into this topic on in the description box so that you do have that as a reference if you want to go back and listen to it. But the question really is how do I handle my taken in hand when she's misbehaving in public?
Ooh, that is one that I can tell you right now. I have some ideas that we're going to share. I'm going to share with you. I can definitely tell you in the past where it was hard for me was saying anything at all, because the last thing that you want to do is we all go through this. You're afraid to say something because you're afraid maybe someone's going to overhear, or maybe someone's not going to understand what your relationship dynamic is, and there's going to be a judgment made there that you're going to bring attention to yourself. And so the first thing that you obviously don't want to do is don't do any of that. But that's kind of how I behaved in the first part of domestic discipline, which is like, well, I know I'm probably should say something, but I'm just not going to. I would back away from it.
So, would you say that the first thing that you need to do is be direct and address your taken in hand in a direct way that confronts the behavior?
Yeah, that's the exact thing that you need to do. And again, it doesn't have to be rude, it doesn't have to be mean, and it doesn't have to be in a way where you're shouting it in front of everybody to bring attention. It can be as simple as, if there is misbehavior that's happening that you need to address, and you can't address it in the moment, perhaps, all you have to do is, it can be simple as just saying, stop, we're going to talk about this later. Very, very simple. I didn't draw any attraction to myself from anybody that I was around. I just simply looked at her, told her what was going to happen, used some words that she knew, okay, this is serious, and that we would address it later.
Use directness, use a direct tone, but like Coda said, don't unintentionally involve anyone else around you. No one in public spaces, and even if you have guests in your home, they're not privy to the inner workings of your relationship, and you should take every measure possible to prevent them from seeing that aspect of your relationship. Really, your power dynamic and your domestic discipline should be a private matter between a head of household and his taken in hand. And so you really don't want to involve anyone else unless your taken in hand does something that does involve someone else. Then you will have, it's appropriate to have them go apologize for their behavior to that person who was involved. But outside of that, no one should see the conversation. No one should see the discipline. No one should see the reprimand.
That's something that's very private matter. And I'm glad you brought up guests, because you may have an instance where you have some guests over. Maybe it's family members, maybe it's friends, but have a conversation early on. Hey, if we have guests over, if the kids are there, but you are out of line, this is the code word, or this is the look, or this is the whatever, so that you can address it in the moment and they know, okay, I need to stop this behavior, and that it will be addressed afterwards without it, your guests going, that was kind of weird, or I overheard that, or even the kids potentially catching on.
And it is completely appropriate to follow through with punishment after the event.
Yes.
After you get home or after your guests leave, because your taken in hand is not a child. They don't need immediate punishment to understand their behavior, to understand that what they did was wrong. They can very easily connect the punishment to the behavior, even if it's been several hours or even days if you're on vacation and you don't feel comfortable to be able to privately punish while on vacation. So don't think that you are missing this window of opportunity to have an effective punishment, you absolutely can. But it is important to maintain privacy. It is important to shield other people from that aspect of your relationship because it is a private matter.
And that's a really good point you brought up. Don't feel like, especially if you're not in a position wherever you're at, to have to just, basically go home early or dismiss yourself from what's going on because you're like, well, I guess we're going to have to take care of this right now. No, that's why it's important to, like I say, have a code word, a look, or a way to address your partner that they know we're going to talk about this later. Their behavior to that point was unacceptable. They need to change it in the moment. And here's what's good about that as well. That gives them a chance as the evening goes on or as the day goes on, whatever it is, to reflect on, oops, I got called out on that by my head of household. Why did I? And so by the time you get to the punishment, whenever that is, in the privacy of your own home, wherever it is that you have punishment, they've had a chance to reflect. They've had time to think about what happened, and that is good too, because then they're more likely, as the punishment goes along, to have that apology ready as a part of that process.
And as a taken in hand, if you get called out by your head of household, you need to take that seriously.
Yes.
You need to take that as an opportunity to shift your behavior, because I know, and this has not happened because I do take those reprimands very seriously, but I know that if Coda were to give me a look or pull me aside, give me a talking to, and I did not shift my behavior, if I kept going with the problematic behavior that I was displaying, we would leave early and my punishment would be way more severe.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm glad that you brought that up because that's absolutely true. Absolutely true.
And we haven't had a ton of opportunity to practice these things in public. However, we have had family visiting from out of town, and family dynamics can be very interesting sometimes. And so, being around people that you're not around all the time, being around family, just having those different dynamics, I did start to get a little out of hand in how I was,
I know exactly the scenario she's referring to.
But I started to just kind of get a little too playful, a little too informal in how I was interacting with Coda. And he kind of gave me a look, and it was a warning. I knew that it wasn't like, hey, we're going to have a punishment later. It was a warning to say, you're getting very close to that line. You need to back off right now, or it will turn into a punishment. And I heeded that warning, and I did
She
not.
did. To her credit, she did.
I did not have to get punished in that scenario, but I took that seriously. There was another time that we were in a store. It was very crowded. Coda said something, and I just took it a little too personally. Got my feelings hurt a little bit and started having a little bit of an emotional reaction. Not an angry reaction. I wasn't, but I was starting to kind of shut down and kind of like just get out of sorts. And Coda pulled me aside, and I mean, we were like in the middle of a busy aisle, and he just pulled me aside to where we weren't in anyone's way, but he gave me a very direct talking to figure out what was going on, what my response was, so that we could get back on the same page. Now, that was a situation that, yes, anyone around could see that we were in the middle of a serious conversation, but these were people that were kind of in their own little worlds. They were doing their errands. They were not paying attention to us, and we were not loud enough or
right
for anyone to overhear, and we did not do anything that drew undue attention to ourselves.
And even if they did overhear, this is one of those situations that you just say, you don't even have to address the people that may be overhearing what's going on. But that's one of those situations where I just don't worry about it. It's none of their business. And that's something that I address with her. And so you don't have to worry about it. In other words, there comes a point where you just don't worry about what the people in the other room or the people in that aisle in this case were thinking. You address it, you move on, and realize, hey, they don't get a say here. They don't need one.
But it's important to note that conversation did not include any talk about spanking,
correct,
punishment.
Very good, yep.
Any corrective
and again, I didn't
action.
raise my voice, none of those kind of things.
Yeah, so it's important to note, like, it's okay to have those more direct, firm conversations, but don't talk about the punishment aspect in a way that can be overheard. Definitely use code words if that's a
Yeah, that's
necessary
something. Yeah.
thing.
Again, something you'll have to talk about.
But definitely figure out a way, because things are going to come up, even as infrequently as they have come up for us, they have still come up. So you do need to have a plan going out in public and figuring out a way to address that in a way that makes sense, but also maintains a level of privacy, even if you don't care. Even if your taken in hand doesn't care.
Yeah.
Even if, like, even if you felt like you had every right to just pull her across your knee and spank her right there in the middle of a
In
restaurant.
front of everybody.
And she didn't care if you did. No one around you has consented to seeing that aspect of your relationship.
Right.
And you have to respect the consent and the privacy of everyone else that doesn't want to be part of your relationship in that manner. And so even if you don't care, you still have to realize that the people around you didn't sign up for that.
You still need to be courteous to the people around you. And you can use other scenarios that you have come in contact in your life where people were not courteous to you. And so in your domestic discipline relationship, you want to be courteous not only to your partner, you want to get across where they're pushing the boundaries, but be courteous to them without embarrassing them, but them knowing, okay, I'm pushing the boundary. But again, not attracting attention from people around you, because you're trying to be courteous to them, because it really isn't any of their business. They don't want to necessarily get pulled into it. And so you just make sure those things are in place so that you can address them. And really, it is easy, as we've said, it's easy to just have a conversation, to talk about this, continue to tweak when things don't exactly work. But there are ways to do it where you won't attract the attention. You can take care of the punishment if one is needed after, but then still enjoy whatever moment that you're in, and have it work effectively.
The biggest thing is having that follow through afterwards, and not just letting things slide because you happen to be in public and by the time you get home, that was so long ago, like, we don't need to follow through with it. No, you really do. Like, you need to have that follow through. If it was a big enough deal for you to call her out in the moment and you had decided that it was a big enough deal to warrant a punishment, then it still needs to be punished, even if she changed her behavior, even if the rest of the evening or the rest of the event went off without a hitch. You still need to have that follow through if that is what you had determined.
Absolutely. So, hope this was helpful.
Hope that answered the question.
Yeah.
Again, if you want to submit a question, leave it in the comments, email us, and we will talk to you guys next time.
Thanks for the question. Take care.